Alright, it's time for some more obscure shareware. Continuing on the theme of shipwrecks and deserted islands, it's time for Beached and Beach 2, both made in 1998 by Mark Boxall. Unlike some other out-of-the-way shareware I've been doing lately, I actually do remember these from way back when. Sure, I did like them then, but like Dark Castle and other games before, it's time to step back and take a fresh look. The original Beached is very simple, almost painfully so. You start on an island with limited food and a week until a hurricane, or tornado, wipes out the island. The games never seem to decide which it is, but this is honestly nitpicking, because you're pretty dead in either case, aren't you? So you want to gather the 50 wood to build a boat, make sure you don't starve to death, and possibly nick a few gold nuggets before you escape. You use up 1 food per turn, and to refill food you move over the horses, or as the help screens put it, a food unit, which looks a bit like a horse. Boy, even Mark Boxall himself didn't have much faith in his pixel art. Well, the horse-like things give you 30 food, and you can hold up to 50. When you've set up camp, you can store food there as well. So, at minimum, you need to hole yourself into camp with 50 wood and at least 50 food, and build away, because you must build a... Okay, I'm not doing that reference again. If you're not going for gold as well, that's all you really need. Of course, since you start with only 15 food, finding more is your first priority, and if you're in a bad location, you can end up wasting a fair bit of time on that alone. Oh, and unlike Oceanbound, you can set up camp anywhere, so find a place surrounded by resources and pitch your tent. Boy, that came out wrong. You can actually have up to 5 players join you in your camp erecting boat building action, who each take their turns through the phases of the day, but it doesn't add a whole lot to the game, aside from being able to drag people in with you, and it's really easy to accidentally encroach on someone else's turns if you're doing a repetitive action. An option for a dialogue box to signal another person's turn might have been nice. Though all of this does open up lots of opportunities to mess with each other in the mad dash for resources. Food will thankfully respawn, but golden trees do not. You can see where this is going. There may or may not actually be enough wood for 5 people to escape the island, so... yeah, good luck with that. Ultimately though, survival is really just a score bonus in the grand scheme of this game. It merely serves to boost your endgame result, along with your gold and how much of the boat you've built. So if you're going to play this, just have a bit of fun with it, don't take it too seriously, and enjoy some old obscure Macintosh shareware. Though if you're going to enjoy it, mute the sounds too, because they get annoying. Speaking of annoying, this game quits at the end of a session. On real hardware, this is only a minor annoyance, but in an emulator, it requires a relaunch of the whole emulator, because if you try to relaunch the game, it crashes. So keep that in mind. However, there is a bit more to say about the sequel, Beach 2, once again made solely by Mr. Boxall. There's a fair bit more strategy, variety, and potential cooperation involved in this one, so this will actually be much more interesting to talk about, and most of the reason I made this video to begin with. Not that I don't do short reviews of simple old games like, say, Stuntcopter, Oceanbound, etc., but I do like some meat to my content sometimes. Some might argue a little too much, but whatever. Unlike the first game, this game is tailor-made specifically for 3 players, to the point that the characters that aren't human players will be controlled by the Mac. There will be enough resources for every single person to build a raft, and there's enough resources to go around. Somewhat. There's enough vines and trees for everyone to build a raft, and there are bananas and coconuts around for your hunger and thirst needs, but those aren't renewable. However, the beaches are a great source for drinking water and fish. If you have the right tools, that is. You see, there are 3 tools: the desalinator for extracting drinkable water from the ocean, the fishing rod for catching delicious fish, and the saw used for getting the 8 logs needed to build your raft. Each person gets a different combination of 2 out of these 3 tools. This means that for everyone to survive, especially the poor guy without the saw, the players are going to have to work together. Coconut milk and bananas only last so long, and the person who can produce for both needs requires logs from other players to get off the island. While there's certainly opportunities to completely doom other players, like, say, chopping down full vine trees, you do actually get significant bonuses for other players building their rafts and surviving. Compared to the first game, your inventory is much more intuitive too, with food and water taking up a single space, vines and gold taking up 2, and logs taking up 10, or a whole row, representing the bulk of these items more than their weight, and not putting arbitrary limits on particular items. Your camp also serves as a place to rest, along with storing goods. You can rest elsewhere, but it won't be very effective. You normally get 7 actions per phase, but if any of your needs are in the red at the start of your turn, this gets bumped down to 5, and of course if any of them run out, you die. I actually find this interesting. Not many games portray any points in between perfect health and dead. It's nice to see, encouraging you not to keep running yourself ragged. There's still places to try and grab gold, and these are unlimited sources to boot, but you only have a 60% chance of getting a nugget out of these mines each time you try, so it's up to you whether it's worth the effort or not. There's 4 types of trees in Beach 2. There's plane trees, which are good for nothing but chopping down. There's vine trees, which have the required vines you need for your raft, 4 to finish it to be exact. Then you have coconut palms and banana palms, which are a great starting source of hydration and food needs respectively. However, once the resources in these trees are gone, they're only good for raft fodder, nothing grows back. Did you really expect it to within a week's time? Once again, you can set up camp anywhere, but position in relation to resources and other players becomes even more important due to the rest and trade mechanics. While this game seems more lenient on time and it takes less turns to actually build your raft, you do have more to balance in this game, which keeps things interesting. The only thing I don't really like about this game is the trading system. You go up to another player and offer to trade your inventories. As in, your entire inventories. You accept a trade and you swap inventories aside from your tools. That's the extent of the trading in this game. I know this is made by one guy and all, but so are Monopoly games made years earlier on the Macintosh, and they managed an itemized trading system too. I mean, granted, you can see what other people have at any time and all, and generally people are carrying what you want, because that's what they can gather, but it's still an annoyance and what can make for an interesting co-op game. Maybe it would help the AI actually decide to make a trade once in a while. The AI honestly brings the game from being interesting down to meh, especially if you play single player. But at least you can play with 3 human players. Excuse me, I need to grab a tie to adjust for dramatic effect. Excuse me, what? What was that I said earlier? This game is tailor-made specifically for 3 players. Yeah, it is. So why can only 2 people play it? The original one let you have up to 5, and it's definitely not made for it. Is it to always introduce the variable of the computer to keep one person from playing all 3, like I was probably going to do? This just completely, utterly baffles me, and is probably the biggest mark against this otherwise very solid game. At least with 2 people you can stand some chance of all 3 people surviving, since you'll actually have all 3 tools between the 2 of you. I'm not really sure there's a way for everyone to survive with just 1 human player, unless you have a saw and practically give away supplies, as the concept of trading doesn't seem to cross the computer's minds very often, and they'll usually have stored logs away in their camp before you can offer a trade for them. They're rather greedy in a game that's supposed to encourage cooperation, and that does bog it down a bit. At least if they're human players, you can chide them in reality for hoarding gold instead of helping you get logs. The first Beached is more of a curiosity, and your mileage will likely vary on that one. I got bored of it pretty quickly myself. Despite my complaints, the second game is actually kind of interesting, even if it's a bit flawed. They're both very small, and they both run on an honor system of registering, so even now, when there's no way we can register them legitimately anymore, getting access is as easy as a couple of clicks. If a relatively simple, bite-sized, but still interesting strategy game appeals to you, especially if you have a friend to drag along, I'd recommend checking out the second game. It's too bad there was never a third game to iron out these problems. It could have been a classic, or at the very least, something I would absolutely recommend. But as it is, there's definitely no harm in checking it out. This is Tanara Kuranov signing off, sailing back into the vast ocean of games. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully the new end-screen format is to everyone's liking. I'm still experimenting with the show's format for the future, so please pardon my dust. Don't forget to ring that bell, and check out the social media and Patreon links if you're feeling especially generous with your time. Always love some more suggestions and interactions. Not to mention word of mouth always helps a tiny channel like this. Till next time.